Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that goes to the cinema every week, watches a couple of things, stays at home, watches a couple of things on various streaming platforms, rates everything out of 5, puts them up against each other, and answers the question, should we have bothered leaving the house this week? Was it worth it going to the cinema, or should we just have stayed at home on our sofas watching Netflix? My name is Tosin, and I am the host. I am based up in a place called Bromsgrove in the middle of the United Kingdom. Joining me as always on the Isle of Wight is Sharon Bolan.
Hello.
Joining me also on the Isle of Wight is Shaun Harris.
Oh, yeah.
And not joining us this week because of that pesky actual paid work thing is Holly Nesling, our London correspondent, who is gutted, especially because of one of the shows that we shall be talking about this week, which and we'll get to that. We'll get to that when we get to talking about that in a second. But first of all, how have you guys been doing? What have you been seeing in the cinemas?
Okay, well, I haven't seen much in the cinemas. There's been a bit of football on and what have you, but yeah. So all I'm seeing...
Okay, Sean. I mean, we've got to. Bournemouth are doing well. Bournemouth might make it to Europe this season. So
yeah, but they've lost a few, haven't they? Ever since the manager got manager of the month. That's a poison chalice. That's a poison chalice. We haven't won since he got it.
Yeah, but I think that is the usual thing. Manager of the month, and then he thinks, I've done it, I've arrived, and then everything just goes downhill.
But yeah, no, they are on a good run, and good. My mate Eddie did well in the League Cup.
Yes, Eddie Howe, who is still a Bournemouth legend, even though he might be in Newcastle. Yeah, so yeah. So but we understand that Bournemouth are doing well, and that priorities. So what have you seen? What have you seen in the cinemas?
Okay, well, I saw a film called Last Breath with
Last
Breath. Yeah.
Yes, I saw that. That was one of my options, and I decided not to. So so Last Breath for Shaun. And Sharon, how about you? Cinemas this week?
I only managed to catch up on one that we reviewed last week, so that was Mickey 17. So I'm a week behind, but that's what I saw this week.
Oh, okay, cool. So we spoke about, I think the other three of us spoke about Mickey 17. Yeah, but okay, just quick thing. Agree with us, don't agree with us. What did you think compared to what we said about it?
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree with it. I thought, I enjoyed it. Good film, well acted, well constructed. I liked the sort of the underlying themes and the tone of it. So no, I thought it was good. Yeah, I would agree with everyone's comments from last week.
Yeah, because we ended up with this whole thing where we're all on like low 4, high 3. It's gonna.
I was exactly the same. I was toying between: is it a 3? Is it a 4? Is it, a throw?
That's a good one. That's the Indian route. A throw. I think they were Daleks' enemies in Doctor Who and the Daleks, the old 1963 movie, The Thralls.
It's one of those. So I was probably tip towards the high 3.
Yeah.
Well, it could be a 4. It's one of those ones that's almost really hard to call it, I think.
Yeah. I feel like it's just above middle of the road. It's just above straight down the middle. I would say with that. All right, cool. And then me. What did I see in cinemas? I saw a film that I saw yet. Oh, Black Bag. That was it. Black Bag with Kate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender.
I'd like to see this. I'm looking forward to this review.
They were the two choices, weren't they, this week?
I'm not a major Fassbender fan at the moment.
Yeah. I know. You're not a fan of Fassbender's grimace, shall we say? Any sort of like emotional thing. You're not fan of his grimace.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think it's Alien. I think before that, but I think Alien probably did it for you.
That was awful. You use your fingers and I'll play the flute.
Well, that's a weird thing that happens, because I think it happens with a lot of actors where they're on this upward trajectory and it feels as if they can do no wrong, and then everything they touch turns to gold. Does it, and then there is a point that they get to, and it seems to happen with most actors where I think all of a sudden the tide turns against them, where either they do something that's a little bit too out there, or people think, oh no, they're getting a bit too big on themselves, they're getting too big for their boots and everything like that. And with Fassbender, it did seem to be Alien. It seemed to be Prometheus, Alien Covenant, and then all of a sudden there was this almost backlash against him, which is Well, depending on your mileage, may vary as to whether that was warranted or not.
There was another film he did pretty much afterwards. I can't remember what it was, but it was like a detective thing or a murder thing where he's in the snow. And
In the snow.
In the trailer.
Oh, the Snowman.
The Snowman.
Snowman, yeah. And
The
Yeah,
Snowman,
that was
yeah.
that was the most.
So I think after those two,
It's been well documented. It's been well documented that film was messed up.
It made no sense.
Well, okay, Sharon, because I remember you reviewing that film.
Yeah, I went to it in the cinema.
Yeah, and you came back saying it makes no sense and everything like that. You do know that they only shot 2/3 of the script.
That would make more sense. And it's one of those weird things. You see the trailer, and then you get a sort of idea of what the film's about. And then you actually see the film, and literally none of the scenes that were in the trailer are actually in the finished film. None of them.
Yeah, and a lot of people, the director included, will tell you that is because the film was not a finished film. They didn't finish shooting it, and they just had to sort of like go, well, we have all these scenes. Yeah, put together something, and then they sent it out. And they sent it out there. All right, cool. So, Black Bag. Yeah, we'll talk about that, and then at home we have to talk about Adolescence. That is the big thing, and I'll talk to you as to why essentially what brought me to the point where I was like, okay, cool, I'm making the executive decision, I'm making the editorial decision when we're talking about Adolescence. I'll tell you about that later. All right, cool. How about anything else at home? What do we?
And I've got Mad Heidi. A Swiss exploitation film where it's got you've got
Don't get one of those.
The logo makes me laugh. Is the Matterhorn with Swiss cheeses around it. So
is that like the Paramount logo?
The Paramount logo, exactly right.
But with Swiss cheeses instead of stars.
and the Matterhorn,
Okay, Shaun, when you tell me this makes me feel like you have been hitting the Prime Video, this is leaving in 30 days list thing again. Because Prime Video has some weird, obscure, really forgotten things on there. It really, really does. Like I saw a film on there the other day it was one of those things I was saying leaving in with Meryl Streep, Roseanne Barr, and I think it was Ed Begley Jr. called She-Devil. And
She-Devil. Is it called The Lives and Loves of a She-Devil?
And this was just called She-Devil. But I think it was in that time period.
Television series first before they made it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, but it was released in that time where you might have the whole thing where they release things in different titles in different places. Okay, cool. So we have Mad Heidi. Sharon, did you see anything at home?
I think we've already reviewed. I think Shaun reviewed it a while back. I think it's called Anthropoid or Operation Anthropoid. It's about the operation during the war. So I'm pretty sure that Shaun reviewed it. It's got Cillian Murphy and Jamie Dornan in it as these Czechs.
The Czech thing.
Yeah, this is ringing a bell.
Yeah.
This is ringing a bell.
I'm pretty sure that Shaun did review it at the time. So that's all I've got other than Adolescence.
All right, cool. And also in cinemas from last week, I saw the film One of Them Days. So One of Them Days, so we'll bring that up. All right, cool. So let's kick in, and I will figure out, there's one other thing that we can talk about at home, but I will figure that out as we go along. Right, so let's kick off with Black Bag. Black Bag is the big cinema outing of this week. This is Steven Soderbergh doing his now, for those people who are in the know, like film-wise, might think, oh yeah, Steven Soderbergh, he did Ocean's 11, he did Traffic, he did Out of Sight, he's like one of those auteur kind of people. And you might have remembered hearing a couple of years back that he was retiring, and he did. And then he decided, you know what, no longer retired, I'm coming back in. But he seems to have come back into making films very much on his own terms. And making films, I think usually with like a strapped down budget, and I think he gets good stars because stars want to work with him, even though they might not be paid what they might be paid to star in, say, a Marvel movie or something like that. And I feel like in his films, because he did Presence earlier this year, and this is like his second film in a matter of like 4 months that's being released. And he did Presence, and that was kind of like, you could see almost as if it was almost experimental in a way. He's like, oh, I wonder if I could take this one idea and stretch it out into a movie, and if I could give myself these restrictions, and if I could make a film. And there's an element of that with Black Bag, where I feel it's kind of like there's an idea that interests him, And he isn't really interested in, oh, let's put out this thing out and make it like massively commercial and make like, loads of explosions and all that kind of. He's not really interested in that. He's interested in an idea. And the idea with this is that you meet Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett, and they are a married couple who work in a spy organization. I don't think the spy organization is ever sort of like mentioned, but it's sort of like, implied as like an MI5 James Bond type sort of agency. But this is a lot more so Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. So they're a married couple. They work within this agency, and he's kind of like the sort of lie detector. So if there's a mole, he's the guy that you would go to sort of, we need to rat out the mole because he can figure out when the people are lying to him and all that kind of stuff. So someone comes up to him. The main premise of the film is that they say, we have a leak, we have a mole, and there's a list. Here's a list of 6 people who we think we've narrowed it down that it could be, and your wife is on the list. And so his wife is on the list, and it's all about this whole thing where she's a spy, he's a spy, and he's trying to figure out, is his wife involved in this? Is his wife the mole? Is his wife the one who actually does all this stuff? And it's called Black Bag because they have this whole idea where in this agency they have various people who are in relationships with each other. And because they might be working on something that's top secret and no one else is allowed to know. So if they say, oh, how's your day, dear? What happened with that? And if they say black bag, that means can't talk about that. It's in a black bag. Sorry, can't talk about that. So they have these very, very defined lines. And then the whole film becomes this cat and mouse game of him trying to figure out who the mole is and trying to figure out, is it my wife? Now, I think Soderbergh also has, when you talk about restrictions, I think he has a rule about making films that are not that much longer than 90 minutes because Presence was around about 90 minutes. This is about 97 minutes, bang on. And so he's making almost sort of like old school films where it's like you go in there, 90 minutes, bish, bash, bosh, you're out. And I love him for it. I absolutely love him for it. So because this is a film where there are bits where they might have gone a little bit more into it and gone into, but he's just kind of like, no, this is what we're doing it. We're just going to go in this whole thing of spies trying to figure it out. One of the main action set pieces in this film is around the dinner table. Is people sat around the dinner table, and it's all about him trying to figure people out and pushing them and psychologically almost sort of torturing everybody at the table to try and get the truth out of them. So there's scenes like that are almost very 70s. They're almost sort of like 70s thriller, which I think, Shaun, would appeal to you.
Yeah, I do like Soderbergh stuff, and most of the stuff I like. I think he did one called The Ghostwriter with the young Obi-Wan, like
with Ewan McGregor and Pierce Brosnan.
Ewan McGregor, yeah.
I don't think that was Soderbergh.
Was that not Soderbergh?
I don't think he might have produced or something like that.
Yeah,
but I remember the film. I remember the film, but I don't think he directed that. Okay. But speaking about which, Pierce Brosnan is in this film. So this film has a stacked cast. You've got Pierce Brosnan, you got Michael Fassbender, you got Cate Blanchett, you got Tom Burke, you got Marisa Abela, you got Reggae John Page for all you Bridgerton fans out there. You've got Naomi Harris in there as well, and it's a bit low key. It isn't very shooty blow up sort of spy things. It's, as I said, it is a lot more of like, and for some people, even the denouement, for instance, when they find out who the mole is, because spoiler alert, they do find out who the mole is. It might be a bit low energy and might not be able to everybody's tastes, but I thought it was quite good. I would give it a 3 out of 5 because there were some bits where I felt like the spy talk that they were giving was giving talks of spy talk. Hang on, I didn't follow that. What the heck is going on? Who's doing what? Never mind. There's a film. Keep going. It gave me that kind of feel about it. But I would give it a 3 out of 5. But it is a high 3. I know some people would probably go a 4, but.
And how was Fassbender?
I thought, okay, so
he did a sterling job, yeah.
Yeah, Fassbender was good. He was
okay.
So he has how actors have different lanes. Like you have like for instance Nicolas Cage. You have quiet Nicolas Cage and you have manic Nicolas Cage. And so this is Fassbender. The character he's playing, George, is very, very buttoned down. Wow. It's like very buttoned down. It's kind of like the kind of player that kind of person that he is perturbed when an eyebrow raises. That kind of thing. Gotcha. And there is one scene where I feel, and Shaun, I think when you watch this film, you understand. There is one film that I think will.
I do plan on sort of catching it at some point.
Yeah, there is one scene I think that will really annoy you. Because I feel like they kind of his reaction in a certain scene in a meeting with all the other characters. I'm kind of like, why don't you notice that there's something wrong? There's obviously something wrong. It's just not subtle. There's something wrong there. So yeah, I would give Black Bag a 3 out of 5. And now we get onto the show that made London correspondent Holly sort of like, rue the fact that she couldn't be on the show today, and that show is Adolescence. And Adolescence, I'll tell you why, because this is a show that has been being raved about, and I've spoken about on the podcast before as to how whenever something is raved about, my initial instinct is to not like it and to not want to rave about it, and to be like, no, well, whatever. And so in a way, I was almost kind of like, I'm not going to watch this because I heard about the subject matter and I was like, don't think I want to do that. Everyone's raving about it. Don't think I want to. I'm going to be contrarian. Then my brother in Nigeria sent us a message going, hang on a second, have you guys seen Adolescence? And I have to put in the context of my brother he's the youngest. We still think of him as the baby, even though he's 38. But we still think of him as the baby. And he is the last one of us who stopped liking the Fast and Furious movies. Let me put it that way. So for him to kind of go, have you seen Adolescence? I was like, okay, there is something here that's traveling. I need to watch this. It's probably going to be a little bit baby reindeer. So Sharon, I'll give this to you. Tell us about Adolescence. What's going on here?
Okay, yeah, this is a 4-parter, and it's almost constructed like a four-act play. There are these quite neat, compartmentalized, different sort of scenes, and each episode, 4 episodes, you see it you follow a different character through. But the story is this young boy, age 13, and the first episode, his family are woken up at the crack of dawn by the police bursting in. They're armed, they're tooled up, and they burst in and they arrest their 13-year-old son, accused of murder. And then as the series unfolds, you find out who was murdered, and then you try to find out again, like you're following the police along, what the motive could be. Because we know what happened, because it's sort of laid out quite early on, but we don't know why. And so the why of it, you start to see it through the first episode, which is very much the police arresting this young boy and that first interview. The second is it's called day 1. And then the next episode is like day 3, where it's the police are then gathering enough evidence to see can they charge this young boy this offence. And then it jumps ahead to and then it jumps ahead again. So I think I don't want to sort of give too much away by jumping ahead, by sort of going into it. But it looks, and doesn't take your conventional approach to this sort of crime, because normally you'd expect it to be crime procedure, you get the arrest, you cut between suspect, you cut between the police, you cut between the family, and then you follow that through all the way through the process of the legal process. Which is part of the reason I did not want to watch this. Yeah, because because when you see the first episode, you're thinking, okay, now I know where this is going. And then you start with the second one, and then you're thinking, actually, this is a bit different than I thought. And then the third one, you go, whoa, I was not expecting this. Yeah. And then again, the last episode, you're like, okay, you have no idea what it was going to do, basically. Yeah. And I'll tell you, into that whole world of young people at school, a world that is completely alien to us. Obviously, we're all grown up. None of us have got teenagers, and it is a completely alien world. When you think of school today, and then you think of our own school days, probably we're all very similar, even though we're at different ages. We're sort of up until I think the 2000s, the last probably 10 years, I think schools were probably our school experiences were probably very similar. You could have gone to school in the 60s, 70s, 80s, early 90s, and probably would have recounted very similar experiences. And then everything took a big change with social media. Well, yeah, Shaun, I mean, as a teacher, you can tell us about that. Well, no, it's changed, a lot. And it's sort of changing more and more and more every time. It's changing. But things come around. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I thought, like, now all schools have that Harris fencing up, named after me, obviously. But so all schools now, I mean, they're totally like, it's like lockdown. It's like lockdown. They can't go anywhere. You have to use your lanyards to go anywhere. Yeah. All the sort of shut down. They have lockdown procedures. There's actually a line in one of the episodes about that exact thing. About that Bogan system where it goes, this is a lockdown, because they have to do practice, and the teachers are supposed to lock the doors, and it's just like,
what is going on here, you know.
Yeah, there's a line about that. But anyway, so sorry, Sharon, I interrupted you. So yeah, back
No,
to
no, I
you.
was just going to say, yes, so it delves into the crime, the nature of the crime, and aspects of this crime that would be just alien to anyone who's probably over the age of 20, because it is just an alien experience. And you follow each episode, you're focused on one particular character, and you see everything from their point of view. And the way it's shot is that it's almost like these sort of they call it one shot, don't they? Where the camera is like tracking the whole time.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, did you notice? Yeah, that every single episode of this is done in one shot, Shaun, and not like a tricked one shot, like an actual proper one shot. Like so essentially that means that the actors would have said action, started the episode, and they just kept filming and filming and filming. And so you're watching everything unfold in real time. People getting in cars, driving to places, the kid being in the police the kid being processed in the police station. Everything is being done in real time. And so Sharon, for me, the big shock of this actually comes right at the end of the first episode, because you're watching it and you're kind of thinking, okay, yeah, you know, there's 24 hours in lockup, okay, blah blah blah, this is what's gonna happen, we know this whole thing. It's not like, you know, oh well, didn't he, and that's what you're expecting. But then the end of the first episode, you're like, I had my mouth wide open watching the end of the first. I was like, what the the way I put it to my brother is like, I was like, wait, what the hell show is this? What am I watching?
Yeah. And I'll say Stephen Graham, the cast is just flawless, isn't it? Stephen Graham, he's just hypnotic as the dad. And I don't know the name of the young lad that you've got in your picture behind you, Shaun,
Owen Cooper.
Again,
he's sort of brilliant.
He goes from this little boy to being this.
God, he's brilliant.
And at times you're thinking he just swaps between this, like, this poor little boy, with you quite sorry for him. Then other times you're thinking, actually, you would be a bit intimidated by him in some ways.
There was one episode
had that scene where you go, "Whoa, hang on."
Yeah, there's one episode that's pretty much a two-hander. Like the whole episode, the whole hour is like a two-hander done in one shot. And that episode is it's like it was pretty much a showcase for him. Episode 3, and honestly, Shaun, you're just kind of going, good God. And then the reaction that a character has at the end of that episode, you're watching it and you're going, 100% makes sense that is your reaction to this whole thing. 100%.
I should have to watch this one, won't I?
Yeah, no.
So Toes, can I just ask, back to the tracking shot? Is it a tracking shot, like you say, a shot in one? Because I think the Birdman film was a one.
Birdman was a faux tracking shot, because Birdman has cuts, and so there's but
it does have cuts. Okay,
it has
more
cuts.
Like Russian Ark, isn't it? Where it is one you are following. This
is done because there's like even something like 1917 had bits where they stitched a whole bunch of cuts together, so you had the feeling of it just being one shot.
Right.
Every episode in this is one shot. Wow. Is literally one shot. Brilliant. There's bits about it where you're watching it and you're going, like, technically speaking, right? There's bits I'm going, how did they do that? And there's bits where you can feel like the way the camera is moving. And if you're thinking about the cameraman holding the camera with all the cast and everything like that, there's one episode where they're in a school with like 300 people, like literal 300 people in this school. Wow. And they do the whole thing in one shot. And you're like, this is mad. Like the sort of calisthenics or the ballet that they have to do with the camera. There is a shot at the end of episode 2 that I was going, wait, how the heck did they do that? Because bearing in mind that this is one shot, they go from one area of the town to another area of the town in one shot. And the way they do it, I mean, okay, so technically this is amazing. I mean, if there is, I know the SAG, the Screen Actor Guilds Awards, they have a best performance by an ensemble where like they just say like across the board, this entire ensemble. This ensemble is just brilliant. And this show, if this show does not win that award of the best performance by an ensemble, because you have 4 hours all done in one shot, there is not a fake performance in the midst. No, especially the one where they're in the school, because these are kids who look like kids, kid actors, not one fake performance in the whole lot.
Yeah.
I thought this was brilliant. I thought it was great. I think this is... essentially, if there's any show that's going to be better than this show for the entire year, we're going to have an amazing year. Because I just thought this, and the way that, because the show, there are certain things that you think, okay, with this being the subject matter, you would go there, you would go there, you would go there. And there's bits where it almost says, no, this is a story we're telling. It doesn't go to some places that you think.
Yeah, the obvious things. Sometimes it just avoids the obvious.
It avoids the
there's
obvious.
No court. You expect a court suit. When you have a crime drama, you expect to have a court scene, don't you?
Yeah.
At some point, and then you expect to see those original police officers throughout the whole thing. They're the focus of the story. And it's
it switches.
The focus is just different each time, but it reveals a truth in each episode.
Yeah.
So they're all really they're sort of revelatory each time, because you sort of suddenly get another perspective. And when they were talking emojis, this was talked about at work a lot. I heard people talk about it all week.
Yeah.
At different pockets of conversation, they were talking about it, and what emojis mean. And to someone of my age, an emoji is just it's just the picture. It has no meaning. It's just the picture is the picture.
Yeah.
And no, because one of the boys was saying to his dad, "No, you're blundering around out there. You're embarrassing yourself." And his dad is like, "I'm down with the kids." It's like, you're not.
Yeah.
That expression shows that you're not. That's my expression.
Yeah.
But he was saying, what about these conversations? And they're like saying, no, that has meaning. Every one of those emojis has an actual meaning.
Yeah.
And people at work were talking about this because we had no idea. It was like, did you know this? It's like, no. Did you know that? No. But it's like, it's just because it's like their own language.
I've just about gotten to the point where I realize what an aubergine or peach mean when you use them as emojis, but I think also the final shot breaks your heart. It absolutely breaks your heart, and it's kind of like it's brilliant. I'm giving this a 5. I think it is an excellent show. I honestly, man, I think it's an excellent show. I mean, the one shot thing means that there's some times where you can't look away from the screen. You can look away from the screen. You can pick up your phone. You can do something else. But then something will happen to bring you back. Something will happen to bring you. I mean, in every episode, there was at least one thing when I was like, damn.
A few times I had to use my 10-second rewind thing. I need to do those exact phrase, because I think the wording here is important. So I'm like, rewind 10 seconds just to hear that bit again.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, to me, sort of high 4, but I think you've actually persuaded me that I think it is probably a 5, because I give up. If you give the perfect score, it's like to take. You've got to find a flaw with it, haven't you? And
100%.
I couldn't find a flaw with it.
Honestly,
so I think that justifies the 5, because it was probably flawless television.
I cannot find a flaw with it. I really cannot find a flaw with it. I think it is excellent. I think Stephen Graham, who wrote it, he wrote it along with Jack Thorne, and it is brilliant. And I would say everyone should go watch it, because
Is it the team that made This Is England? Is it the same people who did This Is England a few years ago?
I don't know. That bit I didn't check, but
that was amazing television as well, and again spoke to that generation. So I think this speaks to that generation. It is now. It's very much just
it's apparently he was inspired by what he sees his kids having to go through at school, and that's what that was the genesis of the idea that led to this show. But I mean, this show, because even when Sharon was given the synopsis, I was thinking, this sounds like your run-of-the-mill ITV cop drama, and it really isn't. It really isn't.
Not, no.
It's but anyway, that's Adolescence. I give it 5 stars. I'll say go watch it, because my God, it's amazing. Owen Cooper, Stephen Graham, it's amazing. No, not a bum note in the entire cast. It is brilliant. And now let's go back to, as much as I want to keep talking about Adolescence, you might feel how much I want to keep talking about this. We have to go back to cinema. And Shaun, tell us about Last Breath, please.
Okay, Last Breath. So what you've got with Last Breath is another. I know we talked about Fassbender. Another person who stars in this, who I think is absolutely awful, and I haven't seen him in anything good, and I don't rate him, is Woody Harrelson. Right. Woody Harrelson,
Michael Fassbender, Stanley Tucci, just line up.
You're allowed to dislike some people, but anyway. So it just never convinces me. Woody Harrelson never convinces me in anything he does, from from Zombieland to
The Hunger Games.
no, even then. So he doesn't
Three
convince.
three billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Yeah, probably that one. Probably
Yeah.
that one's the best. And anyway, so this film is based on a true story of some deep sea divers in the North Sea, and they have to. They're on this ship. They have to sort of stay in these decompression chambers for so many days because they work at really deep depths, and they're in teams of 3. So the first team that goes down, suddenly the boat gets hit by a storm, and it just shows you with like we say what would happen if all the electrics go out. So all the direction findings, everything. It's like a really major storm. It's like go, and so they lose all the stuff, and so they say, "Oh, you better get back quick." So the divers that are Woody's in the bow supposed to get him up, but one of the divers is this thing that keeps them warm. It's really interesting actually because they have like hot water that goes through them to keep them warm. It was like they have anyway.
Yeah, because of how low down they are. Yeah.
Yeah. So the umbilical cord anyway gets caught and it breaks, and one of the divers says, "I'm going to come back for you, but just get to the top of the stanchion thing." So anyway, and then it's the story of them. So they're going to go back for him. So he's got like 10 minutes of oxygen on an emergency oxygen thing, and that runs out, and it's like time's getting on, and they have to reboot the computers. And the chap, you've always got a geeky, the computer man. He goes,
Well, yeah.
It's going to take us all day to reboot it, and that unless I can reroute it and do some stuff.
Unless I can MacGyver this thing. Okay, so
yeah, it's like a MacGyver.
Give me that piece of chewing gum, that paper clip, and that sort of like lollipop stick.
Exactamundo. So yeah, I mean, so I think the storm bit with the ship was. I mean, it's quite good effects. It was quite good effects.
Mm-hmm.
They lose. It goes right. I'm going to take it over manually. I'm going to have to, because all the computers down. We're going to have to try and find him manually and all that. And you've got the thing that come down to find him. He has managed to get up to this stanchion thing, and he sort of clipped himself on. So they can't get him up because the other diver has to go in to sort of rescue him. So
yeah.
Rescue mission really. Pretty standard rescue mission. It's quite good with a bit of tension and all that. And the reason it's called Last Breath is because they cannot really understand, because he's like 16 hours without oxygen.
Yeah.
And when they
it's based on a true story, so
it's based on a true story, and you
yeah.
see the photos at the end, like you do.
Yeah.
You get these stories. You see the photos of the wedding and the people who were there. So, on the whole, it was pretty standard fare, to be honest. It wasn't, there wasn't like any wow moments. There wasn't any, like, oh wow, I didn't see that coming, or wow.
Yeah.
You sort of knew what was going to happen, if you know what I mean. But
I know exactly what you mean. I got the feeling. I got that feeling from the film, which is why I didn't watch it.
No. So that was a good call on your part. So pretty standard fare. And as I say, the thing is, Woody's a bit old to be a diver. It was his last dive, to be fair to him. It was supposed to be his last thing, but he's just, I don't know.
Okay, Shaun, you think that's bad? You know that there's an upcoming movie which I think has been worked on with the Formula One people and Apple, and it's called F1. It's just called F1, in which Brad Pitt plays a Formula One driver.
Right. Okay.
Brad Pitt, even though he doesn't look it, Brad Pitt is 61 years old. I know. Brad Pitt is 61 years old. So there's no way in hell a 61-year-old is driving a Formula One car.
No, that's it. But what I'm saying is he just doesn't come, to me, he doesn't convince me that he would be a diver. He's like, oh, we're not going to lose anyone. You're not, not on my dive.
Not on my watch, everything like that. It's
better than his performance in War for Planet of the Apes. But
well, then it's, I imagine in my head, so for me not watching this film because I feel like everything you're going to see from the poster, Woody Harrelson looks like he's going to be playing the sort of Ed Harris role in Apollo 13.
He does, yeah.
So like the sort of Ed Harris kind of like sort of grizzled old, sit down here and bark at people and at some point say, "We're not losing anybody on my watch."
Yeah, that's it, exactly. So pretty standard fare. I didn't dislike it. I quite like sometimes when they show the bits to the end, when they
show the real people.
Show the real people and all that. So
how many stars did you give that?
Just a 3-star, just a
Okay.
standard 3-star.
Yeah, cool. Just a bog standard 3-star. Oh, speaking of Brad Pitt, I'm not sure if you noticed, Sharon, but he's one of the executive producers of Adolescence.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah, he is. Like his company, because he has a company called Plan B, and Plan B is one of the people, which means that they found the money to make this show, which is because I'm not sure. Shaun, did you ever see the film Boiling Point?
Possibly. It doesn't ring a bell. Would it have been something that I'd
possibly? It was Stephen Graham.
Is it pretty forgettable?
Oh no, it isn't. It's because it's Stephen Graham again. Stephen Graham, and it's a film that was shot in one shot, and was directed by the same guy who directed Adolescence, Philip Barrettini. Okay. And I think you can see that. I think Boiling Point got them on the radar of somebody like Brad Pitt, which means that they actually got the money to be able to do something like this. Because I think that there's more money in this. If you compare the two of them, there's more money in this, which means that they can do things like, one shots that wow you, like how did they get across town? How did they do that? But but yeah. All right, cool. And now we are going to go away from cinema. We're going to go back to TV, and this is going to be to Netflix. And I'm going to talk about a show called Upper Middle Bogan. And Upper Middle Bogan is an old show. I think this originally premiered probably in 2012 or something like that. Let me put it this way. In one of the series of this show, there is a big plot point is about Instagram coming out. And everybody's like, oh my God, Instagram. There's this new thing called Instagram. Tells you how old the show is. But it came to Netflix recently. And I think the reason... Oh, sorry, timer. And I think the reason that this came to Netflix is because of another show called Calling From Accounts. So Calling From Accounts is this Australian sitcom that came over and became this big worldwide hit. And one of the guys who was in it, Patrick Bramble, I think. I've got to look that up. I think it's Bramble. I'm going to go Bramble, even though I think that's wrong. But yeah, he's in Calling From Accounts, and he is also in Upper Middle Bogan. So I think that the people have started going, because Australian comedy is having a moment, they've started going back and going, well, let's find other Australian things. And I think this is a real hidden gem, because the whole idea behind it is that Bogan is an Australian term for like chav, or for somebody who is seen as...
Okay.
Sorry, what was that?
No, I was going to say, okay, that makes sense now, because I was thinking, why do I know that expression? That's why it's Australian.
Yes, it's Australian. This is an Australian show, and Bogan. So it's like it's a word used for that someone might uncharitably use for another word that's uncharitable, and say that for someone who's a bit common. So. And the whole idea is that at the beginning of the show, you meet this woman, and she is a doctor. She's a doctor, and you meet her family, you meet her kids, and you meet her mum. And her mum is like very, very high strung and very posh, well-to-do Australian. And she is, she's sort of like, oh, mom, are you okay? And her mom collapses in her house. She takes her mom to the hospital where she works at, and obviously they take her mom's bloods and everything, and they go, oh yeah. So it's like, this is your mom, and your mom's blood type is this, and she goes, no, that can't be my mom's blood type, because my dad's blood type was that. My blood type is this. So my mom cannot be that blood type, because that doesn't. And so obviously she looks through and she realizes that, oh my God, she's adopted. And the whole thing about it is that she's actually adopted. Her mom never told her. Her dad never told her before he died. And so she goes to find her original family. And her original family are Bogans, as they say. Like, they spend their weekends down at the drag racing strip, because they're just sort of like, gunning up the whole thing. They live a very... And it's one of these shows where, not being Australian, not living in Australia, you're sort of learning as you go along how there's certain traits that they have that they would say, ooh, oh yeah, that's a Bogan or something like that. Where over here they'll be like, oh yeah, that's a bit chavvy, or like, that might be like, from the traveler community or something like that, or be looked down on. And the whole thing becomes almost a bit like Modern Family. It's about how this whole new family works together. So it's about how do you have her posh upbringing come together with the brothers and sisters that she has from her biological mom and dad, and how the whole thing goes up against each other. And I just think it is a perfectly formed. It's like one of those things where they get a cast of people together and they just let them bounce off each other. And Patrick Bramble, sorry, not Bramble, it's Bramble. So like, and he plays her husband, and they just let them bounce off each other, and the situations that they get into are silly and everything like that. But I really enjoy this. I had a hoot with it, because there are some things you know when you know how it is with American sitcoms where you've seen so many things so many times and you've seen the same the same archetype have the same type of reaction to the same type of situation over and over again. Oh, this kid has got the thing where he has 2 different dates at the same restaurant at the same time. How's he gonna do it? And with this, because it's Australian, they have things when they put them in situations and the way they react to them, and because of the language and the way they go about it, it's just different. And I really, really like Upper Middle Bogan. I would recommend it. I would say if you're enjoying Australian comedy at the moment, go back in time a little bit and catch this one. There's 3 seasons of it. It's and they go more with the British thing when each season is only about 10 episodes as opposed to 24 that you get with an American show. So yeah, Upper Middle Bogan, go catch it. I can highly, highly recommend it. All right, cool. And that is. Did I give it a star rating?
No.
Oh,
No.
4.
All right, 4. Cool.
Yeah, I would give it a 4. I'll give it a 4. And now we're gonna go back to cinema, and it's gonna be me again. Apologies for those of you who are tired of hearing my voice. But now I'm gonna talk about One of Them Days. Now, One of Them Days is a bit of a throwback because it is a film that is. This is a kind of film that a lot of which showed up in the 90s, in the mid-90s. It was a time when you started having Black American cinema and Black American comedy cinema, the highlight of which and the zenith of which is probably Friday. Friday with Chris Tucker and Ice Cube. Where it is kind of almost about, so there are certain things that, I remember watching these sort of films growing up in Nigeria, and there were certain things that you would have, like, okay, so it would have a majority Black cast, and they would invariably live in a rundown area of town. It would be about how hard life is then for them, that nobody seems to be able to catch a break, and it's just about somebody chasing this one break. And one of them days, you meet up with a character played by Keke Palmer, and she has a flatmate played by SZA, and she works at like a sort of chicken joint. She works at a chicken joint, and she's like a very, very conscientious, but she's like the employee of the month. She does everything, makes the whole place work. But her flatmate played by SZA is kind of like is an artist who's like a layabout, has like this boyfriend who is good for nothing, who and they give their money, the rent check to the boyfriend to give to the landlord, who is a Nigerian, who is very much kind of like, give me my money now or get out of my house. That kind of thing. And he says, if I don't get the rent money by 6 p.m., I'm going to kick you out. And the boyfriend goes and spends the entire rent check on an investment, in inverted commas, of T-shirt things. And so when he spends it on the T-shirt thing, they have no money for the rent. Then the whole thrust of the film is that they have one day to find $1,500 by the end of it. And then so they go on different shenanigans and they go and they do all this sort of stuff. And that is it. So it's almost kind of like a female-led Friday, as I said, like a sort of Black American comedy. And there were other things I can think of. There's one called Booty Call with Jamie Foxx and Tommy Davidson and Vivica A. Fox. There's a whole bunch, and this is Jamie Foxx before he became the Jamie Foxx that you love. Sure.
I like Jamie Foxx.
Well, go watch a film called Booty Call and tell me if you still like Jamie Foxx. But so yeah, and that's what so it becomes one of the things where there's almost like different vignettes, and you can see that this is a film that is, for me, heavily improvised, because I feel like that's a big thing in this sort of Black American comedic films. There's a lot of scenes that sometimes just seem to run on and on because you can feel people improvising and saying things and going there and trying to find, in my words, I think, trying to find the funny. It doesn't always work, and there's some bits where they come up with that. I think there's a character called King Lolo, who's like a local sort of drug kingpin who kills people because they look at him, not because they look at him funny, just because they look at him.
Are they like caricatures of people? Are they like,
Nobody that I would know.
Oh, right, okay.
No, nobody that I would know. I mean, it might be somebody that there might be caricatures of people who you might know if you're in America, but right. there was no one that I knew. There was no one that I noticed or I picked up and said, okay, this is what they're doing, or realized that this is what they're trying to do. So it's it's getting a bit dark here. So it's yeah. So all in all, I thought it was all right. I thought it was all right. I mean, Keke Palmer is good. SZA, because SZA is known more as a singer. She's a music artist, and I was worried because when you have this whole thing where music artist decides to go be in a film, there have been some bad ones over the years. There have been some bad ones, but she's actually really good. I think SZA holds her own in the film. And I think the supporting cast is one of the things where you have like well-known people who show up and do like a really tiny role, like Maud Apatow, who is best known for being in Euphoria and for being Judd Apatow's daughter. She shows up in like a small role, and she's like she is like the harbinger of gentrification, because there's this apartment block that they all live in that, as you know, it's all run down and everything like that, but that's all they can afford. And then this white girl moves in, and then they're all like and the scene where she moves in, they also stood there looking at like this exotic animal, like, and they're like, oh, we don't like this, we don't show it. So there's some social commentary in there. It doesn't really work. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. I think it's okay. It's a passable time. It is, but the main reason it exists, as far as I'm concerned, is to be a throwback to the 90s and to Black American comedic cinema of the 90s. It feels like one of those films just with women in the lead, which didn't really happen that much, I don't think, in the 90s when these sort of films were having their heyday. So 3 stars out of 5 for One of Them Days. And now we go back to our final film, final thing we're going to talk about, which is Mad Heidi. Oh, good Lord. Shaun has just put up the poster for this film.
That says it all, huh?
Shaun just put up the poster for Mad Heidi. The fact that they call the film Mad Heidi, it tells you something. And then the second thing is that this poster is it's mad.
It's mad, totally, yeah.
It's mad. And if this film lives up to this poster, you might be in for a good time. Shaun, tell us, does this film live up to the poster?
Okay, so yeah, you could say that. Basically, this is a story. This is in Switzerland, and there's been like a slightly fascist government that's taken over. It starts off, there's a bit of a demonstration, so people get killed. And then it's all to do with cheese. The lactose intolerant has to go to re-education camp. So yeah, it's a really, really cheesy movie. It's all about cheeses. Anyway, Heidi's like really she's like
not to love.
Yeah, her grandfather is looking after her. Anyway, it turns up she gets captured in all the exploitation things. She sort of goes to a prison with some sort of heinous female guards in black uniforms that stomp around and force feed cheese and stuff. You've got a mad scientist just working on cheeses to take over turns people into, they want to turn people into mindless.
I'm sorry, Shaun, but each time you say the word cheese in relation to this film, it just cracks me up. It just cracks me up.
Yeah. So it's got about everything about, in this you've got clocks, like they have to go through people, so you've got the Swiss clocks, you've got the Swiss Army knives. There's one bit where as it goes mad, he pulls out Swiss Army knife. So I mean, it's just really, really silly, dumb fun. So she gets in this prison where that she's maltreated by the prison guards and all that. Manages to escape and becomes sort of trained. She meets this woman in the forest that sort of trains her up to be, and she goes on a revenge spree sort of thing. So that's basically what is it? Just basically a Mickey cake of exploitation movies. And it's got every trope you could possibly think of, and every Swiss trope. It's got Casper Van Dien, who was in Starship Troopers.
Oh my God, yeah, that is him. Oh my word, and, that's him all grown up.
And so he's really hams it up. And there is a lot of nods to Starship Troopers in this. So there's nods to Starship Troopers. There's nods to, just. It's got every trope you could think about Black Twister. Mad scientists, lots of gore, really ridiculous, sort of stormtroopery type people that are just there to be killed, sort of thing. Mad man with. So that's it. And there's one scene. So with this cheese to turn them into mindless zombies, he invites like the French delegation.
Okay, wait. Sorry, Shaun. Did you just say the sentence? With this cheese that turns them into mindless zombies.
Yeah, mindless zombies.
Okay, that's new information. That is new information.
These trees that sort of not mindless zombies, but just stupid. Just makes them go stupid and all their.
So you have a fascist Swiss government using cheese as a means to control the population.
Yes, means to control the population.
I feel like there's nothing. I feel like there's nothing to hate about this film.
Yeah. I mean, you could come up with a lot of cheesy jokes about it, which is what they do basically.
So, for public information purposes, on what platform did you see this film?
This was on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
I knew it. It sounded like it had to be an Amazon film. This has to be an Amazon. There's nowhere else you're going to find this film.
Yeah. I thought, I tickled my. I thought, this might tickle my fancy, being as I like that. It's really dumb, over the top, but I have to say, I did find after a while it got a bit. What's the word? I did.
Too dumb and too over the top.
Too dumb, too over the top, and a little bit samey all the way through.
It's one joke thing, yes. It's sometimes.
Yeah, it goes. Like when sometimes too much is a good thing. But yeah, the acting was pretty dire, really. I mean, I'm not really sure of any of the actresses that were in it. I guess there must be famous ones. I did think there was another one from Starship Troopers, but it wasn't. I think it was someone else. Played one of the prison guards. You know what I mean? There's like, and the blood flies about like crazy. So, and Heidi turns from this really nice little thing into a.
Yeah, but that is because obviously there is the kid story Heidi, isn't there?
Heidi, well, that's
so it looks like they've essentially taken that story and mixed it with a weird mix of Mad Max, which I guess where the Mad comes from, and Sisu.
Did you just read my mind? Did you just read my mind? I was just going to say this is no Sisu. This is no Sisu.
But it looks
a little bit of Attack of the Lederhosen Zombies.
Yeah,
because
probably.
that takes one premise of like a ridiculous premise of like Lederhosen Zombies, and then sort of runs with it, and it's sort of by the time you get to the end of the film, you just like joke one a little bit thin.
So this was nothing out of the ordinary. It sort of piqued my interest to start with, but it got a bit samey, a bit like, oh, okay, we've seen this before. So this would be another standard 3 for me.
Well, all right, cool.
A lot for Mad,
But it's, if you want a bit of silliness, it was just the poster. I thought, Mad Heidi. And I checked that because I like those. Not as good as Sisu. We liked Sisu.
All right, cool.
It's on Netflix at the moment.
What, Sisu?
Sisu's on Netflix.
Have you seen it? You've seen it, Sharon?
Yeah, I saw it at the cinema with you.
Oh, yeah, of course you did. Yeah,
you guys reviewed it. I still have it on my list of gotta watch that. All right, cool. So all that's left to ask is, who do you think has won this week?
I think streaming must have by far, with a big 5e for Adolescence.
With streaming has won. It's no big surprise. I mean, cinema was like nice and down the middle of the road, 3 all the way through, and a Netflix. So friends. Excuse me, you had a 5, a 4, and a 3, which gives you an average of a 4, which is streaming wins this week by a whole star, which is quite big.
That was quite big. That's quite a big margin.
So we wouldn't quite say we should have stayed at home we should have stayed at home and not go to the cinema. Well, we'll still go to the cinema because I feel like cinema is actually becoming more and more normalized to what it was like before the pandemic. I really think that it's like the cinema going experience is a lot more normal to that. So keep going to the cinema. It wasn't like it was terrible this week, but we did have a better time at home with a mad Swiss mountain girls, with a Bogan Australians.
Mad Heidi, just the names. It's like,
yeah, and with an all-timer, I think it's an all-timer of a TV show. I mean, come back in a year's time and see whether maybe I was just sort of like, oh my God, it's amazing.
I'll try and catch it. It's on Netflix, Adolescence.
Yeah, Adolescence is on Netflix, and I think that's one. All right, so until next week, when I don't have a clue what's coming out in cinemas.
No, me neither, really.
I think Novocaine, that was the secret screening on Saturday on the island. So I don't know if Holly caught
Did you go to see it or not? Did you go see it?
No, I didn't. No. But it was the secret screening on the island.
How are you guys getting all these secret screenings on? I'm gonna write a letter to multiplex cinemas and tell them buck up your ideas. Cineworld's getting all the secret screenings. I want a secret screening, bruh. But anyway,
there is a thing on tonight, Sharon, but I don't know if I'll go. There's like a live showing of Hans Zimmerman. There's music and
the one night only thing.
Yeah, so right. I don't think I'm.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, you might need to take your ear defenders for that. But anyway, until next week, until next week, let us know what you think. Get in touch with us on Netflix via Cinema, on YouTube, or on Twitter, which are the two main places that we are, because who has the time? There's not enough time to keep up with all these social media platforms. It is a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
Sharon.
Thank you.
I've just seen something. An unlimited screening of Death of a Unicorn on Monday, March the 31st.
Hold the goodbyes.
Yes,
So yeah,
Death
of a Unicorn, unlimited screening. I'm gonna book that now.
Okay.
Yes, I'll book mine.
Okay. And I will write a strongly worded letter to Omniplex cinemas saying, "Where is my Death of the Unicorn screening? Where? Where is it?" All right, cool. And until then, thank you so much for joining us. Bye.
Bye now. Bye.